Hello and welcome back to the 12th Man podcast. I have with me today, back again, who was a fan favourite in the comments from the couple of videos we've done together so far, Neil Dunworth from the Love of Paul McGrath podcast. Mr. Dunworth, how the devil am ya?
I'm good. Feeling good today. Yeah, it's still unseasonably warm here in Ireland at the moment, and I never thought I'd say it, but I just kind of want I want a nice little misty, rainy evening, just to kind of keep the dust down, as you say here in Ireland. But apart from that, everything is going good.
Good, mate. It's cooled down here, to be fair. I got lucky during the heat wave. I might tell this story actually on the podcast. I think it's a story worth talking about quickly. So what happened during our first heat wave, right? My wife said to me, we need to get an air conditioning unit. Now, we were doing the weekly food shop. Maybe in like February, March, someone was like, air conditioning unit, 200 quid, man. We should get it because it's going to be hot in the summer. We'll regret it if we don't. She said, no, it's a waste of money. We don't need it. So I was like, okay, fine. So anyway, she set me on this challenge one day, Neil, and she said, you need to find an air conditioning unit, right? So I'll go everywhere. I'll go B&M. I'll go The Range. I'll go Asda. I'll go Sainsbury's. I cannot find an air conditioning unit anywhere. And then I'll go on my lunch to pick up a member of staff who was coming in who works remotely. Went to pick them up from the train station, popped to another couple of shops to find an air conditioning unit. I couldn't find an air conditioning unit. So on the evening, we're going to see my wife's 92-year-old grandma in Burton. I go to The Range there. They've got one, but it's on a display with a chain across. So I asked them at the front, can I have the display? They said no. So I try my luck, Neil, one more time. I went to B&Q directly opposite it, and I asked the nice lady, excuse me, where are your fans and air conditioning units? She said, they're over there, but I don't think there's any left. I walk into the corner. There's an air conditioning unit, Neil, but it's a display unit. All the fans are gone. The fans were gone as well. There was nothing apart from the display units left. And then I spot this gentleman in the corner of my eye. And I go, excuse me, can I borrow you for a minute? So he's come over, Neil, and he's followed me. It's a genuine true story. And he goes, you see that X-display unit there, mate? I said, I need that. I said, I don't care if I have to pay full price. I need that X-display unit. And he starts looking me up and down, Neil. And he's like being a bit odd. And I was like, what's up, mate? And he was like, oh, head office. Are you from head office? And I was like, what do you mean? Am I from head office? He was like, they had an email 5 minutes before from head office to all the B&Q stores saying they're not getting any more stock. Get rid of the X display units. So I'm like, yes, I've got an aircon unit. It was when it was like 36 degrees, man. There was no air. I've got a newborn baby, a wife who's just had, had all the full shebang in labour and whatnot. So I'm over the moon. But then Gary, his name was in B&Q, said there's a problem. For them to sell X display, they have to be able to find the instruction manual, Neil. Now. Yeah. So they can't give it me legally unless there's an instruction manual. Next thing you know, Gary has assembled a team of Avengers and brought two of his colleagues along. It was Callum and Kirsty, I remember. One of them's come on a forklift, got on the forklift right to the top to see if the instructions and all the little bits it come with were at the top shelf. Callum is up the top. What's on the top of the empty pallets, Neil? The instructions for the air conditioning unit. So I got it. I think it was supposed to be 300 quid. Got it for £195. It was X display. I'm telling you, I haven't slept above 21 degrees since. What a story that is. Honestly, want to tell the grandkids.
Easily known you worked in retail before. If you were going and pointed out about X displays, because I've done that before as well. I remember once upon a time I worked in Carphone Warehouse. And I used to love when people come in and go, so they're not being made anymore. I'll buy the one that's on display. And you're like, okay, fair enough. I wasn't looking for any manuals though.
So yeah, I haven't slept in above 21 degrees since then. If it's even remotely clammy in the room, that's it. Air conditioning on full blast, bosh. And then I have a fan on as well to circulate the cold air. I don't know what it is. I know we've gone completely off topic and we're nearly 5 minutes in, but I like to be cold in bed, but I like being under the quilt, but I like the cold air hitting my face. I've just always been that way. But I also have tinnitus. I don't know if I've ever told you that before, Neil, but I have tinnitus.
You can read minds?
No, I have a constant ringing in my ears. So I can't sleep it. I can't really be around silence anyway. It doesn't bother me unless it's like radio silent, but I have to sleep with some noise on in the background, otherwise it drives my ears loopy. So anyway, on to the good stuff. Boy, everybody's here not to talk about stories to do with air conditioning units. I must apologise for my ADHD tactics there that have absolutely thrown me off and forgot that we're recording a football podcast, not talking about Gary from B&Q. Anyway, so the last week at Aston Villa Neil, a few things have happened. Obviously, the Nicholas Jackson stuff hasn't gone away. It's been backwards and forwards. Everyone's saying we don't know how it can happen. UEFA this, UEFA that. The rules, we can't loan two players from the same club. All a bit haywire. We'll talk about that. But Austin McPhee, him leaving Aston Villa, Neil, that's thrown a big rift into the Villa Twitter space, and everyone's had a bit of a meltdown. Neil, what were your thoughts on Austin McPhee saying his goodbyes? The floppy-haired king is on his way to London.
I've got to. I haven't even really done a podcast on it because for me,
Good.
I'm not even sure that there's. Like, I don't even know is there a story in it, right? And I know that people are going to go, "What's he on about?" Of course, there's a story in it. This guy with whatever many goals, with 25 plus goals from set pieces and so on. And I actually asked Dan Bardell a question in this. Like, he was looking for questions for his podcast, and I put one in underneath on Twitter, and I actually posited the question. Are the methodologies more than the actual man itself? And what I mean by that is that we know about Aston McPhee because we never had a set piece coach. Aston McPhee's been with the club with 3 different managers. So the club knows his methodologies and knows how to run set pieces and how set pieces should be done, how to design set pieces. And surely we know now we have the methodology. I'm not saying, I'm not saying that, you just trot out whatever he's done again and just hope that it works. Not copy and paste job. What I'm getting at here is that over the last 4 years or 4 years, I think he's been with Aston. 5 years he's been, I think, with Aston Villa, maybe a bit longer. That, Villa would have built up. Like, Villa are not stupid. They've got analysts who work with him. They would have adopted a lot of the set piece stuff into their youth teams and stuff like that. So through Austin McPhee, they would have built up a set piece matrix, essentially, within the club. And I think that potentially, like everything else, you probably need to, I'm not even going to say freshen that up, but you probably need to bring new ideas into that at some stage as well. Now, McPhee's gone to Chelsea. I do have a podcast on set piece coaches, and I'm probably spoiling my podcast later by getting into this, but I do have other bits and pieces that I do want to talk about on it. But that's kind of where my mind is. You bring somebody in to put the process in place, to put the matrix in place, to put the organizational structure, the structure of how things are done in place, because we never had someone before. And now he's gone onto another business and into another company. If you think of a business, he's gone onto another company and he's set up this production line, and we now know how to do it. We get somebody else in, who's going to take a look at that from the outside, looking in and going, I really like how this is done. This is really innovative. And I've got even better ideas here who can innovate this way. Because no matter who you are, if you're looking at your stuff the whole time, you're going to have blindness to certain areas of inefficiencies and certain idiosyncrasies within your plan that you almost love too much. And you're kind of going, no, I loved when I came up with that plan. I don't want to get rid of it. Or this is how I love doing this and I don't want to get rid of it. And other people are looking at it and going, yeah, but it's horrendously inefficient. Or something like, there's always something like that. That's just how process. That's why there's process engineers. That's why Henry Ford, when he came up with building his car back in the day, somebody else came along and built it, did it better, and somebody else came along and did it better. And why am I talking about Henry Ford and the Model T and all that kind of stuff and business structures? Because the whole reasoning for the Aston McPhee should be getting a massive pat in the back and a big hug from Aston Villa. And the fact, and look, him moving on is not ideal. For me, the big pissy part of it is the time of the year that he's decided to leave. I think that's a bit bad in his part, but that's neither here nor there. But the structure has been built there, and now Villa need to either find somebody in-house that can work within that structure, or else bring somebody in who can work within that structure. And that's going to be the key.
Yeah.
The structure has been built. The man who built the structure decided to move on and thinks he can build another structure in another club. And that's the way of business and the way of the world, really.
No, Neil, I agree with everything you say there. And one thing for me as well is the side of Austin McPhee, he's not a one-man army. There'll be an entire team doing a lot of the legwork for him ultimately. Well, I assume, he's the manager and he's delegating the work. I need you to research this. I need to research how this team's set up in a set piece
analysts
and whatnot.
are doing the work.
Absolutely.
As well.
And something that I did, Neil, because not only losing Austin McPhee, we've obviously lost a few important figures on the pitch too, and coaches too, people who have been with Unai Emery a long time. And I was starting to panic a little bit myself. So I thought, okay, let's just do the research and look at the history in how Unai Emery has responded to losing people who were close to him on and off the pitch. Now, I think it was 2009, 2010 with Valencia. He finished third, right? With Valencia. And then he lost David Silva and David Villa in the same summer.
Never heard of him.
And then finished third again. So he lost two players with over 30 goal contributions each in a season. And then still finished third again. And that alone, just on that part of the 2010, part of the how Unai's coped with losing key figures on and off the pitch, that alone was enough for me to know that Unai Emery is more than comfortable with losing people, and there's always another plan. He's always ready for whatever's going to happen, and it just makes me love the bloke more because he just seems to, no matter what situation we're going through, because how we're going as a club with all the financial restrictions we've had, and echoing that with Valencia in 2010 as well, Neil, they also had huge financial problems. I don't even think it was relating to the rules. I think they were just struggling financially.
Was it then Peter Lim? Was it Peter Lim? Is that what his name is? That came in, fellow who currently owns them now. Maybe that might have been a bit later. That could have. I think they went through a couple of charlatans before they got to him, and he's arguably a charlatan too as well, but very wealthy one.
Yeah, and that's the thing. He's dealt with losing his best players and financial struggles in the same season, and then he's gone, hold my beer, I'll finish third again. Like, it's mental, and it just makes me fall in love with him even more every single time. He always seems to bounce back no matter what life throws at him. And, I think people should instill that into their everyday life. I most definitely do. It's not what happens to you that's important. It's how you respond to what happens to you.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And like, I'm sure, like, I think on the 24th of July, when you get that news, you've already played one preseason game. You're about to play another preseason game, and you're about to jet off you're going back to the best guy. You're in Portugal. Then you're about to jet off to Indonesia, and you're kind of going, right, we're instilling stuff here, albeit we don't have our players back from the World Cup yet. But one of the last thing we don't need to install, should I say, is set pieces. And think of it this way as well. McPhee was probably off on holidays too, considering he's just come back from the World Cup himself. He's a coach. Yeah. He needs some time off as well. He's in that different position whereby he's managing, or he's in the international sphere as well. So he probably wasn't even back. But I think maybe, or if he was only tentatively back. But so there's a lot in that. But look, I think realistically, what you have to look at now is that, right, I would imagine we're not going, like, there's only two ways to deal with this. We get an analyst that we've probably never heard of is catapulted into the role, and it could be infinitely better, could be infinitely worse, could be exactly the same. Or we find someone. But I will tell you one thing, Ty. I spent about 3 hours, I suppose, really, probably about 7 hours over the course of the day yesterday in work because I was bored. Today in work because I was bored, trying to figure out what the actual role of a set piece coach is. And what they
did you get
do.
A definitive answer?
Are there actually really, really good ones? You'll have to tune into my podcast to find out what.
Absolutely, and I will be leaving the links below for Neil's podcast. For anyone, I'm sure everybody knows who Neil is. Me and Neil were the duo of the Villa View once upon a time for about 3 years, twice or 2 or 3 times a week. So if you know who I am, you definitely know who Neil is. So I'll definitely be linking that in the description of the video. Neil, speaking of flying out to Indonesia, I will not be doing that. However, I am going to the Bescott tomorrow to watch us against Sociedad. I have treated myself to a ticket as it is my birthday tomorrow.
Oh,
So
lovely. Happy birthday.
thank you, mate. Oh, yeah, yeah, I'm getting old, but it is what it is. But I'm still enjoying myself. But yeah, I'm going to go tomorrow. I'm looking forward to that. Hopefully see a bit of Guinea. Hopefully see a bit of Garnacho as well. Looking forward to seeing them both in action. I've missed Guinea since the end of the season. It's been, the World Cup kind of helped with the season end, and especially of us finishing on such a high. But it wasn't quite the hit that I needed. I needed the boys in claret and blue. So looking forward to that tomorrow. But how things are in the market now, Neil? We're in a bit of a weird stage, aren't we? Because we're at that stage where it's one in, one out. So things are quiet until some people start knocking at the Villa door. I mean, I know Estupinan's been Amarim's taking his time to assess his squad and whatnot. And fair play to Villa if that is, the actual truth of what's going on behind closed doors, and that we're holding firm and we're happy to wait. And, we're not saying, no, we're going to go for somebody else. I like that we're standing firm and saying, okay, when you're ready, you let us know. That's great. But it's a bit of a tricky time. Paulinia links have gone quiet too. So now we're at a point where Leon Bailey links to Hull have gone quiet too as well. And I think that's to do with a loan. But I've seen Evan Gasson linked with Hull City this morning as well. Wouldn't mind them both going in a double swoop, if I'm honest. If Gasson's going to have a redemption arc, I'm absolutely at peace with that. But if they want, an offer for the both of them, absolutely take them. But it's a bit of a tricky one, isn't it? As we're about to go to Indonesia, which is far away, and it'd be nice for you to have your Korea squad and, everybody who's going to be there for the season. How do you feel, Neil? Can you see many more exits going out the door? What's your gut telling you in terms of the business we're going to do for the rest of the window?
Well, that's the thing, you see. So there's always going to be a lull in incoming action, I suppose, really, because I won't even say books have to be balanced, but squads have to be balanced, and they don't want to be left in a situation whereby they're clamoring at the end of the season where they have to get rid of somebody. And instead of us taking an opportunity, us getting the opportunity cost of finding the the bright spot in a crisis or a chaos, we are then the ones who have to maybe like the worst, the one single-handedly the worst thing this club could do would be let Evan Gasson go for 15 million. Like something along those lines would be I would look at it and go, what a loss of money. Like, it's all well and good saying you get the 15 million in, you don't, the way it's amortized. Like, it's, for me, that would be bonkers. Keep him, hold on to him even at that stage. And I know people are going, oh, he plays with Timberlands. A lot of groupthink going on with Evan Gassan. Somebody needs to say it. It really is. He's not as bad as everybody says, as everybody says he is. Club spent a hell of a lot of money on him. You're better off keeping him and seeing if you can if something can happen with him this season. If he does end up going to Hull, absolutely fantastic. I think that Hull are playing strong ball because they probably can with those two at the moment, because they know that Villa need to get at least one of them off their books. So they're probably looking for Gassan for a meager fee or for a lot less than the 28 million or whatever we paid for him. And they're saying, right, yeah, we'll take Leon Bailey on loan. So I think it's just a horse trade, really, to be honest with you. But I don't think it's a case of you need to get both of those out of the club at any cost, because there is no such thing as getting them out at any cost. There is a huge cost to the club, and we still are in financial, grey areas with a lot of stuff here. So just throwing people out to go away and spend 50 million on an Mbaye, and then another 175 grand a week on Paulinia, and then 20 million on Estupinian, and then 10 million or 15 million or whatever you want on Emerson Royale. It's just like getting them off the books for the sake of getting them off is just not good business. We are stuck to a great degree with Leon Bailey where we are at the moment. We've wanted to get rid of him for the last 2 years and we haven't been able to. And that is an issue. That's a separate talking point. But the club, I think, will have to make a call on him more so than they will on Evan Gassand about where they cut their losses on. I think they're. And once that's done, I think we do see people matriculate back in. And also, I don't think the club wants to exactly be doing a whole pile of business while they're halfway over the Indian Ocean going to Indonesia, So I think a lot of things will slow down till we come back, because it is a marathon, not a sprint, as we saw last year as well.
Yeah, and I agree with that, Neil. And something that's helped me, especially with the numbers, I put a tweet out about it the other day. There's this gentleman called Rob Jones, who's a web developer for a living,
Yeah, it's
and
great.
he's made a website which I will put in the description, and it's absolutely mental. It's so user friendly. You can use it on mobile. You can use it on desktop too, and it shows you our current financial position based on how we've done so far in our business. But there's also a rumors tab where you can click on a player based on estimated wages, estimated what they'll sell for. Click on that. So if I say we thought Ollie Watkins was going to leave for 30 million quid, just as an example, you could tick Ollie Watkins, but then you could tick someone who's rumored to come in, and it would show you exactly what that would look like, which is mental. So yeah, I'll put that in the description as well for anybody who's
It was really great. Yeah, fair play to him. It's just easy to view and easy to see. Now, look, I think a lot like some of the numbers and wages and stuff like that are like that's where you're always going to get caught with stuff like this. But I think like the ease of view of it is just brilliant. And I'm a very visual person, and I was able to look at it and go, yeah, this makes sense to me. I can scan through this and I can get what I need from it. Like it bounces off the page to me. There's another really good one as well. Kieran Maguire and those guys brought out an app called Value Ball. Really good. They've tended to take some estimations from accounting from previous years to kind of come up with wages. Now they do admit that their wages are very much estimated because no one can know what they are. That's another good one. But I think to get full access to a lot of stuff, you need to pay for an in-app purchase on it as well. But still, you can get the superficial level and stuff like that, and it does look good. So it's the business of football is becoming an interesting business in its own right as well. And Rob's stuff is really, really easy to view, really easy to see, and I absolutely love it. So fair play to that man. He's done a really great job with it.
And that isn't sponsored either or anything of the kind. I just happened to come across Rob on my timeline one day, and I thought this is a great piece of kit, and I think everybody should be exposed to it. You know, I'm not going to gatekeep something that helps people understand financial rules, and it's really difficult as well, Neil, because I feel like the financial side is sucking the fun out of football, and I don't necessarily mean the restrictions, because that's a completely different conversation. Obviously, that does suck the fun out of football, but there should be no thought in a football fan's head. If you think back 20, 30 years now of someone being signed, obviously you were a kid then, so it's a bit different. But 20, 30 years ago as an adult, you won't be thinking, oh, what are the financial repercussions? What are the repercussions of us signing this player? And it's kind of the same. It's kind of like the VAR of finance. It's the, we signed Garnacho. He's going to have a great season. VAR, it's going to put you in the shit for 27-28 season. You know, just as an example, it's like that's kind of how it feels. It's like it's sucking the fun out of, people should be a bit excited about us signing Nicholas Jackson. But that's going to take out all the profit of the Morgan Rogers deal. Just as an example, there, it's I'm struggling. I get excited. I have a dopamine hit, Neil, and then it's instantly replaced with fear of, are we doing our smart business behind closed doors?
That's exactly a thing. There's a talking point in that itself. And you went off on your tangent about going to B&M and going to everywhere else and to Gary and B&Q. Yesterday, I took my two wonderfully, beautifully, brilliant children to see Toy Story 5. Spoiler alert, if anybody hasn't seen Toy Story 5, it's about the evolution of playing with toys and bringing in iPads and tablets and devices into the child's realm when the kid's like 7 or 8. And what happens is that the kid's love for playing, because of what she feels needs to be done and the forced growing up that she needs to do, becomes sullied because because her love for playing turns into being bullied on the iPad, and then the toys win her back and everything like that. And I was sitting there going, and I swear,
Neil, don't say anything more about the plot. I'm going to get 1-star reviews if you keep telling us what's happened.
I would. But I was sitting there and I was going, this is a great analogy for football, because we're all the 7-year-old kids watching this beautiful game that we've grown up watching, and we're proud to do it. And now we've got a lot of people coming in and going, oh, look at you, you're watching the football. Oh my God, you think that guy's good, but no, what's his XG? And all this bullshit. And then we also then have people like going, like, your club needs to build their business before they can start talking to us, food chain FC, all this kind of nonsense. And then you're going, this is bullshit. What we need to do is actually, who gives a flying fuck about that? How's about we get back to watching football and watching the beauty of seeing if Garnacho can come out of his shell and become this brilliant player that every single team in the world thinks he can be, because he's universally loved by football or wanted, or there's every football coach in the world looks at him and goes, that guy's a talented footballer. Is he a bit of an arsehole? I don't know. Are his family a bit of arseholes? I don't know. But everybody's looking at that. And that's the beautiful thing we have to watch and we have to look at. We've Johan Manzambi. That's another beautiful thing that we have to look forward to and be curious for and be interested in. But what happens is we get stuck in the weeds of getting into a 30 trade conversation on Twitter with somebody who you'll never meet. It doesn't matter, who's literally there to suck your fun out through your eyeballs. And I swear, as true as I'm sitting here, I had an epiphany yesterday when I was looking at that going, this, like, how's about we fuck all that off and we get back to loving football again? And we can talk about that other stuff, but let's get back to just loving football again as men in their 30s or 40s, and not feel like we have to be this grown up looking at finances and everything like that, and maybe park that to the back of our mind somewhere. We can talk about it, all right, but when finances and XG and all that starts to become the be all and end all of football, and people use that to denigrate you, to belittle you, to rage bait you, to get you in, try and back you into a corner with a forced argument.
Yeah,
it just brought me back to Toy Story, and I went, why don't we just go back and play with our toys again? There's nothing wrong with it, and we were all happy doing it. So, like, why do we need this? There you go. That's my impassioned plea.
No, Neil, you're spot on. And it's the same with the comparison of Messi of Ronaldo. I don't care about the comparison, but very soon we're going to live in a world where neither of them play football anymore. Can't we just appreciate what they were? Like for me, Ronaldo is the greatest striker of all time, but Messi is the greatest footballer of all time. That's my opinion of it both. Why do we have to compare? Comparison is the thief of joy. I just wish we could live in a world where it wasn't everything's always compared to something else. And as you said, Neil, with XG and stuff like this, Villa could be winning 1-0 at halftime against Brentford, but our expected goals is 0.02 and Brentford's is 4. There's no point for this nonsense. Like, you can data stream anything, you can put anything through data, but you're absolutely spot on, Neil. Let's just go back to the basics and enjoy the football. And
like last year, we were tying ourselves up in knots as fans with XG philosophy. And he became this guy that we all had to, like, well, not all, but like you'd see it, like Villa Twitter had to go to prove their point to him day in, day out. The only person who got rich off that was him. The only person who made anything other than being a legend in their own lunchbox was him. He made money off that. He made he financially made something out of that with all the impressions on his stuff. And the same thing now this year. It's when a Spurs fan puts up a whole, oh, look, Aston Villa have mismanaged their funds because Louis Barry was on 40 grand a week. The only people who are making anything out of that is the capital, is the person who's rage baited you into. And I know people know this, and I'm not pontificating, but it's like it's like a drug that you kind of need to go back at people. But the real drug is football, because that's where you said the dopamine hit comes from. The watching Morgan Rogers score goals from outside the box last year, that was brilliant. Watching Yuri Tielemans' goal and I'm purposely saying these two players because they're no longer at the club. Watching his goal in Istanbul, and now having the curiosity of seeing, well, what can Manzambi do? What can Garnacho do? What can any of the rest of these players that we're going to bring in do? And that's the fun of being a football fan, I think, because we got to remember we're not a terribly successful club in recent times. Well, like when I say that, we've won that European Cup, which is brilliant, and I wouldn't change it for the world. But a lot of the times we're going to have to dwell in areas when we don't win things. And that's where the beauty comes from, of watching these players grow and become one of our own, be part of our club, and now hopefully we're in that position of financial stability where we can do that, and we can keep players like we have done with this beautiful squad that we have, kept them for 5-6 years and grown to put our arms around them, essentially. And that's the beauty of being a football fan. Not whether you've got Beyonce coming to play in your stadium. Sure.
Neil, do you know what? This episode has gone I mean, I never really plan how an episode's going to go unless there's a topic I want to cover for the entire duration. But I think we've just hit the nail on the head, and I'm glad that we went down that route, Neil. You know, it's the I miss sitting in the whole end with my mates and us falling over each other and falling down rows. Like obviously sometimes it's a bit theatrical, but a last minute winner, you're going down rows, you're getting bruised. But now it's always that fear in the back of my head. Like I scream so loud, Neil, I give myself a migraine. I have to stand still and I have to close my eyes and I have to breathe. Otherwise, I'm going to faint because I've screamed for that long without taking a breath. I'm purple and I'm about to black out. But now I'm at a stage where I'm celebrating, but while I'm celebrating, I'm thinking, was there anything in the build-up that this can get pulled back for? And that's another part of the game for me that alongside financial rules and everything else that goes on in football, that it just sucks the fun out of it. And I understand the video assisted referees there, but it needs to get to a point, Neil, and a speed of where it's real time. Someone's offside, bang, called instantly. None of this, let the passage of play happen before the lino starts flagging, if he even sees it. Someone having to go to a screen. Stop it in real time. If there's a foul, if there's an offence on the field, whatever it is, an offside, a foul, a handball, whatever, call it when it happens. Don't let me celebrate for 5 minutes and then pull it back. And then you're sitting there, stadium's in silence, and it's VAR. And you're just waiting there for your inevitable death, essentially. Just sat there, just waiting for the ref to go, nah, no goal, because of something pathetic that happened 40 seconds before in a passage of play. It's horrible.
And that's another thing, and more tangential, and that is another thing as well that it's the is the fact that everything is corruption, everything is a conspiracy to this, like, and Jesus knows our podcast has been guilty of this probably more than most. But I think going into 2026, 2027, so you got to sit back and you got to go, people are getting it wrong more than they're getting it right. And that's just human nature. It's
speaking of getting it wrong, Neil. Speaking of getting it wrong, go on. Sorry, mate.
No, but what I'm saying is, like, I think we're at a stage now whereby there is nothing you can bring in with regards to VAR that people won't think that it's heavily weighted towards certain clubs. There's nothing that you can bring in, and the reason for that is because it's in the zeitgeist for the last 7 or 8 years, however long VAR is in there. There's no way of sanitizing that ever again, and there's no way of anyone knowing whether there is or whether there isn't. But it's never going to be a clean product, VAR. But then again, I don't really want it taken out either, because it gets it right hell of a lot more times than it gets it wrong.
Yeah. So. And speaking of getting it right and wrong, I woke up this morning, go on Twitter and see Fabrizio Romano and Plettigol. What's his name?
Yeah, I saw that. Really strange.
They're having an argument about who gets it right and who's giving false positives of, here we go. And I'm just like, is this what it's become? Two journalists arguing about who breaks transfers the most. Like, put your fucking egos away and just get on with it. Like, who cares?
The definition of smelling your own farts, that was, and I've been lucky to have had Fabrizio on my podcast and spoken to him. Lovely guy. Like, I mean, genuinely really, really nice guy.
Yeah.
But the industry, once again, there you go. It's the industry that's built up around transfers, the industry that's built up around everything to do with it. It's become bigger than the actual event itself. And it's born out of the tight transfer window, tight transfer and the captive audience, tight transfer window, should I say, and then the captive audience that comes with that. And everybody is hanging on every click and every refresh on their phone because they know, right, we're in hunting season essentially now. And then once that's over, then we can relax and we don't need to do that. And the traffic is incredible. And fair play to them. Two of those guys are making serious coin out of it. Like, they are infinitely wealthy, in comparison to where they were 5, 6, 7 years ago. But it's, I did find that a bit strange, the fact that both of them I felt they had to protect their integrity and their honor, when all you got to do is, like, because they're in a position where they only have to get it wrong once, and then they're not fallible anymore. They're not infallible anymore. They're fallible, and they're going to get it wrong again. And that is like VAR. It can't be perfect in this game. It can't be perfect at anything. And those two guys spent an hour on the internet yesterday or over during the night arguing that both of them were perfect, and it's a zero-sum game. There's no winner in it. You can't win it. Like, it's strange.
I've said it better. It's ridiculous, and we know from our own mate of Dan Bardell will never recover from the Jack Butland saga that happened all of those years ago. People still mention it to him. Every transfer window I see someone tweeting down about something relating to Jack Butland, and that's just how the football world has become, mate. And we're a part of it now, and there's no turning it back. But Neil, I think we've waxed. I'm glad we got that off our chest, Neil, because that's one of those topics you usually only have when you're down the pub with your mates and you start talking about how this is crap in football. I'm glad that we've put this into the universe and we've spoke about. I kind of just wanted a bit of a catch up, really, about the last week in football, how we feel about things that have happened or might happen, and we've ended up waxing lyrical for the last 20 minutes about the state of football, mate. And you know what? Thoroughly enjoyed it, Neil.
Yeah, I did too. And you know what? I'm going to bring I'm going to show people where my mind is going when I talk about joy. I showed something like this to you previously, Ty, but my podcasting boudoir is nearly there. Once the electrician comes and hooks up some sockets, I'm in like Flynn, and I will be podcasting out of my new podcasting boudoir. But I was putting some things together. If you hold on there for 2 minutes.
He's coming. He showed me this before we went live, but this is some good stuff, man.
Yeah, so you talk about
Neil, you'll have to explain as well for the people who are on audio only.
Yeah, for people who are on audio only. So like we spoke about being a kid, and like 1996, we were lucky enough to do a live podcast with 4 Aston Villa players that played in 96. At the time, the last time we won a trophy, and I hope in 30 years' time we get 4 of the guys that were playing on this year's Istanbul team to come and do a live podcast. But during that time, I got to sit there with like genuine heroes of mine from when I was a kid, and on that day, I got loads of things signed by the guys.
Unreal.
And as I was putting them in frames today, and I was putting the frames together, and I was actually stretching the shirts so that I could see it and pinning them at the back and making them look perfect, making them look lovely. It really brought back a love for that team, and just it made me go like, yeah, I could be sitting here doing a podcast about, what the book value of Evan Gassand is, but like, it's unenjoyable, and this stuff is enjoyable. Like even meeting this guy, like I'd met Tails before, but even meeting Tommy Johnson and Mark Draper, just regular lovely guys who are just incredible footballers, and putting their stuff into frames today just gave me like a real kind of pep in my step, a real kind of jolt of fandom again, and looking forward to getting these up on the wall along with another thing that I have here that I took to framers across the road, because I certainly wouldn't be able to frame this myself. And it's the white shirt from Istanbul, and then the winners 26, along with a program that I have from Istanbul, and it's lovely. And I'm going to get in a big piece and put it up, because that's the stuff that matters, not your XG.
For the rest of your life, football heritage.
Yeah. Football heritage, exactly. That's the stuff that matters. That's the stuff that you look back, like you'll never turn around and go, God, you never turn around to your grandkids, as you mentioned, and go, do you know what? On the 27th of June, I owned a Spurs fan on the internet. I owned him on the internet because he said something about a Beyonce concert. Yeah, hang that in the wall and see who looks at it.
Amen, Neil. Amen. And I think that kind of, just all this energy, and I don't know if anyone will remember, but I think, I can't remember even when I came back, but I had a complete social media blackout for a year, because I found I was coming home from games, and instead of me spending time with my wife and my kids, I'm arguing with faceless accounts on Twitter who are being negative about Villa-related stuff. People I don't know, people I'm never going to meet. And I'm spending this time trying to change their opinion of why things aren't as bad as they seem, instead of spending time with my family. And then the thing is, I put my phone down, and I'm in a bad mood. I'm letting strangers who are not part of my life, not people I interact with, other than social media, and I'm letting them affect my mood. And that was ultimately where I went, do you know what? Social media blackout. I'm done with this. I need to sort my life out.
I found myself 6 months ago getting into an argument with somebody. And then when I looked at his stuff, number one, nothing against the nation of Nigeria, but I realized he was based in Nigeria, and I was like, okay, right, I'm based in Ireland, he's based in Nigeria. This is pretty mad anyway, number one, that we're having an argument over Aston Villa, who were based in Birmingham. And then when I looked at it, 99% of his stuff was on about trading crypto, and I was kind of going, This guy is just out for a laugh tonight. He's just out to push buttons. That's all he's doing. He is not passionate about this subject. He just found a greater fool that is going to just fucking have a conversation with him. And neither of the two of us, none of this matters. And the biggest problem we're doing is taking up a small piece of a small cell in a big massive data center somewhere, and we're just filling it up with our nonsense talking to each other. And that's the only place it will ever go, because it certainly won't go into the history books or the annals of anything productive anyway. That's for sure.
Neil, I'll be honest. This episode, I don't even know what to title it. Football therapy sessions. You think, I feel like not even we're the therapy for other people. I feel like we've been therapy for each other in this pod, mate. And I have thoroughly enjoyed it, Neil. So I must thank you. But I asked for 20 minutes of your time, Neil, and here we are at 40 minutes and 30 seconds, and we're still going. And we probably could do another hour and a half just talking about the state of football.
I've got to hit the steam up. I told you beforehand that I was kind of in a cranky mood today. I told you, but I think I've gotten a lot of it off my chest here now, which is good.
You see, and that's football. Me and Neil. I mean, my day's been fine. To be fair, I had a heavy day at work. I come home and my head was absolutely frazzled. But just spending 40 minutes with your mates, just talking about football, and that's all it is. Just because there's a camera here, if me and Neil spoke on the phone conversations are exactly the same. We're not different on camera. This is exactly how we are. Anytime I've met Neil in person, this is exactly how we are. And this is why it's important that you should talk to your mates, have friends at the football, introduce yourself to people if you don't have friends, or, even if you see me or Neil at the football, come and have a chat with us about football, man. We're just normal people. There's no egos here. We just talk about football on a camera. That there's absolutely no egos. So if you ever see us at the football and you've got nobody to talk about football with, just come and stop us. You won't see him, Neil, though. He's a short ass. Yeah. But I'm 6 foot, so I'm all right. So you'll see me. But yeah, Neil, I think it's safe for us to wrap that episode up there. I think, do you know what? I think this is one of my favourite episodes, not even on my channel. I think that I've ever done with you.
Yeah, it's been good. It was chaotic. We did have a couple of things we wanted to talk about, and that went out the door early with Gary, and then it certainly went out the window then with Toy Story 5. So we've covered a lot of ground.
How did we do that? I said beforehand, we'll talk about Austin McPhee, a little bit of Nicholas Jackson, a bit what's been going on the window, and somehow we ended up on this plot of Toy Story.
I don't even think we talked about Nicholas Jackson. If you asked me a question about it, I don't think I answered it at all. But I
didn't ask you a question because we didn't get there. I was too busy talking about Gary and the bloody air conditioning unit and B&Q. And you were talking about the poor Bonnie in Toy Story 5 who's getting bullied by kids on her iPad. But yeah, Nicholas Jackson will have to wait for another episode because it's getting late now. We need to get this episode out. So Neil, an absolute pleasure for this one, mate. Thank you at short notice for jumping on with me, and thank you for just waxing about football. I feel great. I feel refreshed. I feel like a little bit of weight off my shoulders. So thank you for that little mental health therapy that I didn't know I needed. It's much appreciated. Right, so that'll be all for today then, guys. I'll be back. I'll probably do an episode maybe Wednesday morning around the Sociedad game, if there's anything to talk about with that. If not, I'll be back at some point in the week to wax lyrical more about Villa. So from myself and Neil Dunworth, a massive up the Villa from me.
And up the Villa from me.
Up the Villa gang.